Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Farminar on the future of twine. We will begin very shortly. I just wanted to put in a couple of notes. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please click the question box at the top right of your screen, and we will address all the questions at the end. And we will begin. Elaine, please go ahead.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our Farminar, the Future of Twine and Impacts Innovation. My name is Alain Graton. I'll be your host today. Give you a little bit of my background. Since January 1st of this year, I've taken on the role of Twine Technical Manager for Bridon in North America. And prior to that, I was within the group, I was in sales and technical support in Canada. I'm going to introduce you to our guest today. He's a good friend and colleague of mine. I've had the chance to work in the field with him for the past 3 years. We're really lucky to have him today because he's usually a very busy guy. So please welcome Matt McWilliams, our newly appointed Global Technical Manager. And Matt's been with the group, what, 10 years?
About 10 years.
But he brings about 30 years of baling experience to the table. So, Matt, if you don't mind, you know, uh, giving us a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah, so before coming to the group about 10 years ago, most of my past experience has been on-farm production. So hay and forage, started with small square balers, wire tie Freeman 200 was the first baler I started with. Moved on to 3-tie small squares, and recently been mainly focused on large square balers. Had a few different sales roles, but always kind of agricultural focused, and I've been able to really hone in on hay and forage and large square balers, twine and otters
Good.
during my time with the group.
Well, thank you, Matt. Today we're going to talk about the standard twine technology and our new IMPAX technology. We'll discuss the difference between these two technology and the many advantages of the IMPAX technology versus standard twines. So make sure you stay tuned for the whole Farminar because near the end of it, we'll review a twine calculator, and it's a great tool to show you the many operational cost savings you can achieve by simply switching to the IMPAX technology twine. So please stay in for the whole webinar. Uh, Matt, let's talk a little bit about how the twine has historically been made. Can you elaborate on it? And this is the twine from not just Bryden, but pretty much every twine manufacturer.
Yeah, so just in general, twine starts from polypropylene. So we take raw material, polypropylene additives, and color, master batch, mix it through an extruder. That extruder then melts that plastic, and it extrudes it through a die where we create tapes. Those tapes are then stretched, heated, and cooled, and then we soften those tapes and twist them into what we commonly know as baler twine today. Um, in general, I know we have probably a lot of farmers and contractors on this call today, but in general, in order to make a twine stronger, historically, we've just needed to make it thicker. So if we start with, say, like a 400 or 440, if we want to jump up to a 600, essentially we just make that twine diameter a bit thicker to increase the strength of that twine.
And we all know what when you make a thicker twine, what are the challenges of making a thicker twine? What does it bring, and how does it affect your baling process going with a much thicker twine?
Yeah, so on every large square baler, even small square balers, as we all know, if you guys had any experience with a baler, the knotting system has a very tight tolerance. So the baler is really designed for a specific range of twines. Once we get outside of that twine diameter that's recommended for that machine, we can start seeing mistie issues.
Yeah.
So the twine being caught on the bill hook, the knots not being completed and coming open on the bale, broken bales because standard twines, what we would call kind of previous or older technology, are also fairly brittle. And so that brittleness doesn't allow us to absorb the shock as well during the baling process.
Yeah, so we've noticed, like every other twine manufacturer, we noticed these issues as well. So once we started experiencing these issues with high density balers that are more and more prominent in the market, we decided to look into, developing a new twine technology. And can you give us a little bit of background regarding the development of our new twine technology that is called IMPAX?
Yeah, so we started with the development of IMPAX back in 2018, so kind of right before COVID. So we kind of had to struggle through the challenges of COVID during our field testing procedures to validate these new twine technologies. But we essentially started with a 600 knot strength performance twine. And this twine was much smaller diameter, but we were trying to achieve the same type of performance with a smaller diameter twine. We did have some initial challenges, but we overcame them in the first year or two. And since then, we've widened our product line from that 600, what we know today is our 600 knot strength performance IMPAX product, to a full range all the way from a 245 and a medium twine for 3-tie and 2-tie small square balers, all the way up to an 800 knot strength performance product.
Oh, that's a good range. So now that you talk about this new IMPAX, so without revealing any trade secrets, can you explain a little bit of the IMPAX? What is the IMPAX technology and how does it work? And I think you brought a video with you, if I'm not mistaken, to kind of explain what's going on with that.
Yep, let me see if I can pull that up for everyone to kind of explain what we're talking about here. Okay, so in terms of IMPAX technology, we essentially changed the DNA of the plastic. And by doing that, we're using advanced new raw materials, so additives, to help give different characteristics to the twine.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to new and different methods of production. So that's kind of the basics, but those two things combined really changed the performance characteristics and the ability for the twine itself to help absorb the shock experience on that twine. So
and that's what we're seeing on the video here.
Yep. As we can see on the video, with each plunger stroke, we can see a peak and valley each time that bale is being impacted by the plunger. And then one interesting thing is we can see that green line moving across the graph on the right side of the screen. We can see a peak tension as that bale is teetering off the bale chute just before it hits the ground, of about 20% higher tension on that twine during the baling process. Then we see a little bit of a drop in tension and then static tension in the field.
Okay, interesting. This is like a twine that is 15 to 20% thinner than a standard twine.
In general, it's about 15 to 20% thinner. In fact, we are also showing a drop test here comparing a standard 650, a much thicker twine on the left, the white twine, and we're dropping a weight from about 3 feet in height compared to a 20% thinner twine with IMPAX technology. Again, our Bridon Max IMPAX 600, which is able to better absorb that shock simulated during the baling process.
So it's all about shock absorbency then.
Exactly.
Good. So you were talking about developing this twine. So can you explain a little bit the process and a little bit of the background on how we conducted the field trials to develop this new IMPAX technology?
Yeah, so you and I have been a part of field trials the last few
Quite
years, but
a few of them, yeah.
at least for our viewers, we'll kind of in general explain kind of the process. But typically, when testing a new twine, we want to compare it to other twines already on the market. So that could be our standard twines or competitor standard twines on the market that an operator is currently using in the field. So we show up to the field, we go ahead and make 50 to 100 bales using that standard technology twine, and we're tracking data, a variety of different things like bale length, the completeness of the knots, how they're looking on each end of the bale, especially for a double tie large square knotter. And we're also tracking the number of misties. So, of course, on most large square balers, we're going to have anywhere between 4 to 6 knotters on a machine, maybe up to 8 on Chrome HDP2. So we're tracking those misties. We're tracking how many broken twines we see during that time and broken bales in that process. So then we pull the standard twine out of the twine box, load our the test twine or test IMPAX twine in this case, and we make at least a couple hundred bales, and we're tracking those very same things. So the number of misties, broken twines, broken bales, and so we have a huge database from all over the globe that tracks, those different characteristics, so we can compare and contrast and be able to see, okay, is this product actually that much better than, the standard twines the operator was using?
Okay, good, interesting. And since our time working together, we've heard from many farmers, custom operators, contractors, and they were sharing their positive experience while using the IMPAX twine. Can you please share an example with us of what a farmer or contractor said to you when we were in the field with them?
Yeah, I can share a few of the main, I guess, benefits that they have explained to us that we can also track in a lot of our field trial data. First of all, they're working with a smaller diameter twine when switching to IMPAX. So it's reducing that mistie rate. It's reducing also the broken bales. The twine just works a lot better in the knotters. So that's a big benefit. They're not having to get out of the tractor all the time. Another benefit is, since it is a smaller diameter twine with higher performance, we're able to put many more feet in each spool. So we can offer up to 40% additional length compared to a standard length product. So that's another benefit. More nonstop baling with less tying issues. That's a major benefit. And less adjustments throughout the season.
Yeah.
Since it's a twine that's a softer consistency as well, in addition to being a smaller diameter. So they're not replacing parts as frequently, and that's a major benefit that farmers and contractors can really see.
Okay. And do you have a number of the mistie reduction?
Yeah, so based on our data, most standard twines, we see somewhere around a 3% mistie rate. Based on our data, when we switch to our IMPAX versions, and these can be anywhere from that 245 up to that 800 knot strength performance product, we typically see that mistie rate to drop below 0.5%.
Oh.
So in thousands or tens of thousands of bales, that adds up to a lot of bales.
Yeah, definitely. Now with that, we have a little bit more history about the IMPAX technology. Can you tell us where this twine is being manufactured for the North American market?
Yep. So we as a group have manufacturing sites all over the globe, but we take pride in producing our heavy twines with Bridon USA at our manufacturing facility in South Central Idaho, in Jerome, Idaho. So we have a manufacturing plant there that we not only produce our top performance IMPAX products made in Jerome, but also our standard heavy twines are also produced in Jerome.
And I know that information because we've done quite a few field trials together. But has this twine been approved by all the major OEMs out there, the baler manufacturer in our market?
Yep, so we've validated nearly all of our IMPAX technology products in all of the common OEM balers on the market. So that can include AGCO. So AGCO is consisting of Massey Ferguson and Fendt. In addition, we've approved IMPAX with John Deere. And we're working with CNH and others out on the market to hopefully get those products branded in their label as well. But in terms of performance, we've absolutely validated these products for use in any large or medium square baler on the market.
Okay.
Hey,
And
Elaine, I'm sorry to interrupt. You guys disappeared off the screen, so I don't know
oh,
if something changed.
we'll check the camera.
Uh,
Oh, maybe it was our background that was causing an
Must have been
issue.
our background.
So
Maybe.
we'll,
We
That's
rode
fine.
off into the sunset, I think. So.
Yeah, that's okay.
all right, no worries. So we'll continue. So Matt, can you give us some specific example of how well the IMPAX technology actually perform in tough conditions?
Yeah, so there's one demo that comes to mind. We were working in Western Oregon in annual ryegrass straw, and it was a demo with one of the case livestock representatives, and an end user wanted to try a new case 436 HD machine. But in the beginning, he wanted to try his own twine. It was a standard 600. I don't really remember the manufacturer of the twine itself, but non-IMPAX twine. And he was running some other Massey Ferguson balers, so we wanted to compare the Case 436 HD performance in the field, speed, throughput, and bale weight.
Yeah.
So he went ahead and put his own 600 in that machine, ran the machine up to about 80% baler load, and we started seeing the outside twines on Otters 1 and 6, breaking occasionally. We got further into the afternoon, and then we started seeing broken bales all over the place. So luckily, we brought some IMPAX, Bridon IMPAX 700, not strength performance product. It's a 4,600 foot spool. Threw that in there, 24 spools. Told him if he wanted to, he could run that baler at 100% load and as fast as he wanted to, as long as he didn't plug it. And so he did, ran that baler up to 100% load. Once we finished, he mentioned that he reweighed some of the bales and noticed that he had almost 100-pound average bale weight increase using our product in that machine.
Huge benefit.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll share one of my story because I thought it
Okay.
was a little bit funny. A couple of years ago, I get this call just before the season. He's a custom operator. They have, he's got a partner in the contracting business. They're both running 1290 HDPs, and he calls me, goes, "Can you suggest a twine for me? I'm having tying issues and broken bales." So obviously, I sent them to the IMPAX 700 myself.
Mhm.
And in the middle of the season, I think it was mid-July or something like that, he sends me a text and goes, "No broken twine, no slip so far this season." Right away, I called them. I'm like, "Can you give me a testimonial about
Yeah.
how satisfied you with that twine?" So I show up to this place for the testimonial, and he start telling me about this bet that him and his partner have. And basically, it's whoever breaks or has a mistide the first when they start the season
Uh-huh.
has to pay the other guy steak dinner. So now it clicked. I'm like, he's tired of paying the steak dinner. So,
Yeah.
and that was one of the reason why he was looking for a different twine. And he switched the IMPAX 700 and that year, and so far he's never had to pay a steak dinner again. So I thought it was a pretty good anecdote.
Fat and happy, I
Yeah.
guess.
Do you have something similar like this, or?
Yeah, I guess I haven't heard of too many bets really out there, but I do have a really good contractor in the Northwest that also runs Massey Ferguson 2234 XDs, and he bales in really tough conditions. I mean, like some of the toughest out there, super steep hills, really hot in the summer, and he could never get that dry wheat straw to have a higher bale weight. So his bale weight average was always around, say, 1,050 pounds in those conditions. Again, really tough for any machine out there. And it always seemed to be that the twine was the limiting factor in his operation. So he also has his own trucking company, so he wanted to increase his efficiency, make heavier bales, less bales per season, so he's not hauling quite so many bales. And so we finally got him transitioned over again to the 700 IMPAX technology. And he called me up out of the blue one day and said, "Hey, I've got some good news for you. I was actually able to break over that 1,100 pound bale weight average."
Nice.
And he tracked one field in particular, and I want to say it was around 1,150 pound bale weight average. So,
Nice.
yeah, pretty nice personal goal he was
Yeah,
able to achieve.
those are nice phone calls and text
Yeah,
message to get, definitely.
sure.
So I guess that would be the perfect time to introduce our Twine comparison calculator tool that you brought with us.
Yep.
Yeah, if you want to explain a little bit what it is.
Yeah, we have a fairly simple impacts to compare to standard comparison calculator. So if you'd like, we can walk through an example.
Yeah, yeah. Before we do that though, we have a poll, Jamie. If you can bring up the poll, and we'd like to know, what are the factors that you consider before making a twine purchase. So Jamie will
Yeah, so
bring
the
up the poll.
yep. So the poll is up. If everybody can just vote on this poll. So the choices are price per spool, availability, quality, spool length. All right, people are answering. We're going to give it a couple more seconds. All right. So we have two answers here. They came up on top. So price per spool, we have 36% of the votes, and 64% of the votes was quality.
Nice.
All right.
Sounds good. So Matt will share twine calculator tools that we created, and this tool is great to see where you can save money in your operationals, day-to-day operational, just by switching your twine quality. So Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, so this calculator really kind of breaks down the costs in your operation. So we want to start with, in this example, we're comparing two different twines. So again, we're comparing a standard 4,000 foot, 600 knot strength performance product compared to our Bridon Max IMPAX 4650, 700
Uh,
knot strength performance product.
can you explain, like, if we're comparing spool to spool, why in this example we're using 600 knot strength versus our 700 impacts?
Yeah, we get that question quite frequently, actually, Elaine. But just to let you know, the reasoning behind that is our Bridon Max Impact 700 is about 15% smaller diameter than even most 600s on the market.
Okay.
So we can use a smaller diameter twine that's a much higher performance twine and achieve those higher bale weights that we were
Okay.
just talking about.
Makes
So
sense.
we can definitely compare 600 to 600, but if you're looking to increase that bale weight, we want this higher performance product in a 700.
Makes sense.
So in this example, we have an end user, farmer contractor making 10,000 bales a year using a standard 4,600. Okay, he's able to bale maybe up to that 80, 85% baler load is what we commonly see in tough conditions. With the Bridon Max Impact 700, we can, as we just mentioned, add, somewhere around or maybe a little bit higher than 10% bale weight on average. So just by doing that, we're reducing the amount of bales we're making per season for the same amount of tonnage.
Yeah.
So that turns for example, a 1,000-pound bale using a standard 600 into 1,100-pound bale using Bridon Max Impact 700. So again, we're baling the same amount of tonnage. So this could be an operator baling straw, so 5,000 tons of straw per season. From there, we have a bit of data on the baler itself. So this would be a 3x4 by 8 foot bale, and baler 36 by 48 by 96. Most 3x4 balers run 6 knotters in this case, and the standard number of spools per twine box load is going to be somewhere around 30 spools per twine box load.
But if you get this calculator, you can actually change,
Yep,
those cells and, to match the baler that you're currently
exactly.
using. Yeah.
So yeah, if you're running a 3x3 or 3x4, even small square, 2 or 3 tie, we can adjust it based on that operation. So from there, it will calculate the number of feet needed to make each bale. So this would be an example of 134 feet per bale. And then we want to add some details about the spools that we're comparing. So we can compare spool weight, first of all. So a standard 600 is going to be somewhere around 24 pounds per spool. Our Bridon Max IMPAX 700 is a bit heavier. It's our endurance size spool to achieve that, the longest length 700 on the market. So that product's going to be 26.5 pounds per spool. And from there, again, knot strength, comparing a standard 600 to a 700 with Bridon IMPAX technology. Spool length, a standard spool length in a 600 is going to be somewhere between a 3,800 to 4,000 foot. So that's what we got there. And then our 700 is 4,650 feet. Moving on, we have our price per spool. So the 600 in this example, we found a few retail examples. So $47 per spool compared to $54 per spool for the Bridon Max IMPAX 700.
That's quite the gap, and we all know how the twine industry works.
Yeah, I think price per spool is typically what we hear. So most people might be a little nervous already. $7 gap per spool, but don't forget that additional 650 feet per spool right off the bat. And then in addition, we're going to show some other benefits using Bridon Max IMPAX technology.
All right.
So if we jump down and look at the number of bales we can make per baler load, twine box load, with a standard 4,600, we can make almost 900 bales per twine box load. But now with our Bridon Max IMPAX, with that longer length spool, we can make about 1,050 bales per spool.
Yeah.
So from there, we can start looking at cost per foot. That's kind of a funny number to me to look at. So I really prefer looking at the cost per bale. So if we look at the standard 600, the twine cost per bale for that product is $1.57 per bale compared to $1.56 per bale using Bridon Max IMPAX.
So it's actually a little bit cheaper using Bridon Max, even though it was $7 a spool more per,
Exactly.
person.
So it's slightly cheaper. It's only a cent. That doesn't sound like much here, but we're going to show a couple other reasons why it ends up being cheaper throughout the season.
All right.
So number of spools needed to purchase per season using a standard 600, they're going to need to purchase, this operation would need to purchase 335 spools of the standard 600 compared to only 262 spools with the Bridon Max IMPAX 700. That's 74 less spools per season that they need to purchase. So that's a savings in itself. So if we look at twine cost per season, for the standard 600, $15,745 for standard 600. But for a higher performance, longer product that you can bale for longer in the field, $14,146. So that's, a savings of almost $1,600 per season.
Even though the spool was $7 more. That's good.
Yeah. So from here, we can start calculating our transportation cost savings. So the first block of cells carries over all of the information that we previously entered and calculated. So from there, we can start talking about their transportation operation. So again, this can vary from one region to another based on, are you running your own trucks and trailers? Are you having it hired out, having a trucking company do it? We can adjust all of these costs in this area. So first of all, it carried over that 5,000 tons of forage that we're baling per season. And then we want to enter how many bales per truckload that we're typically hauling. So out west, if we're running doubles, typically it's 48 bales per truckload, but we can adjust that if you're just running a step deck or whatnot.
Yeah, some places we see 39, so you can actually input the number, depending on your trailer and your region.
Exactly. So from there, the transportation cost per mile can really vary, whether you're doing it yourself. In this example, this would be somewhere around, maybe it's a bit low with the cost of fuel and everything, but this would be somewhere around $2 a mile for this owner-operator running his own trucks and trailers, and transportation miles per round trip. So this is a fairly short haul, 25 miles each way. A lot of guys are hauling a couple 100 miles
Oh yeah.
each way. So these numbers can really change, but so this is kind of a conservative
Yeah, yeah,
example, I would say.
yeah.
So from here on out, the calculator pretty much does everything for you. So again, remember on the standard 600, we're making 10,000 bales a year to bale that 5,000 tons of forage, but we're making almost 1,000 bales less, 9,091 bales
Yeah.
using Bridon Max IMPAX 700. And so that's reducing obviously the number of truckloads
Yeah.
that we need to haul each season. So with the standard 600, we're hauling 208 truckloads for those 10,000 bales. With the IMPAX 700, we're only hauling 100, making 189 trips with that
Wow.
truck. Again, bale weight, that's really important to help maximize each trip.
Yeah.
So 48,000 pounds for most trucks, that's under, the max net weight
Yeah.
on that truck. So with our Bridon Max IMPAX 700, remember we added 100 pounds per bale.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're 52,800 pounds.
True.
So
Maximizing a little bit better your trucks.
exactly. Increasing your transportation efficiency
Yeah,
is really what it
definitely.
boils
Yeah.
down to. So and then transportation costs per season. Maybe this doesn't factor in all of the maintenance, all of the fuel savings, but it does factor in your transportation cost per mile and some of the time savings. So here we're saving about $1,900 per season just by switching to IMPAX technology, running your baler a little bit higher baler load, and increasing your bale weight.
Nice.
So to kind of sum this up a little bit for everyone, in this case, they're going to be purchasing 74 spools less per season by switching to Bridon Max IMPAX 700. They'll be using almost 1,100 pounds less plastic per season. So
Yeah.
for some folks, especially in Canada, I know plastic savings with plastic taxes coming
Yeah, eco fees.
can be important. So that is, a
Yeah.
savings. Twine cost per season, because we are making heavier bales and less of them, we can reduce the twine cost right off the bat by almost $1,600.
Yeah.
From there, again, they're making 910 less bales per season because we've added that 100-pound bale weight, and then 19, almost 20 less truckloads per season. That's a time savings just in itself.
Yeah.
And they'll be saving about $1,900 in transportation costs. So total savings just in like hard cost savings, so around $3,500 per season for 10,000 bales.
For a spool that was again $7
Yeah,
more
yeah.
compared to the standard twine. So,
Exactly. So one of the other things I like to refer to as kind of soft savings,
Mhm.
so downtime savings. So with any baling operation, you're going to have downtime. You're going to have broken bales. You're going to have maintenance. You're going to still have to load twine into the baler, right?
Yep.
It's not magic. Somebody has to do that. So if we use a shorter spool like the standard 600, we're going to have to load that baler to make 10,000 bales in that case 11 times. And for me, if I'm just doing it by myself, it'd probably take 45 minutes to an hour, tying all the spools together and everything. So with the Bridon Max IMPAX longer 4,650 foot product, we only need to load that twine box 9 times. So that's a slight time savings. When we were talking about our field trials and we're tracking mistied knots and that 3% for standard twine and below a 0.5% for IMPAX twine, in 10,000 bales, 3% of that is 300 bales. You're going to have misties.
Yeah.
So every time you have a mistie, you got to stop the tractor. You're supposed to shut off the PTO. Maybe not everyone does that, but we would recommend shutting the PTO off.
Safety first.
Safety first. Climb either on top or underneath the baler, fix that mistie, maybe make some adjustments. So each mistie can be a couple minutes. So
minimum.
if we're looking at a standard 600, that's 300 misties. The Bridon Max IMPAX, only 45 misties. So we're really reducing that mistie rate, saving time.
Definitely.
Again, when you have misties or when you're working with a more, say, brittle twine, you're going to have broken bales. I mean, especially if you're pushing that baler, in this case in straw. So in 10,000 bales, you're probably going to have somewhere around 150 broken bales throughout that season. Broken bales can take 3, 4, 5 minutes to rebale. Damages, the crop again. Is harder on the machine, right? We're not supposed to be picking up hay that quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's another, downtime point. In addition, We are going to have some broken bales. Things happen with any baling operation, but we're going to further reduce that. So 29 broken bales, maybe. I would be surprised if we
Yeah, yeah,
even have that many
yeah.
throughout the season using the IMPAX 700. So kind of to sum it up, we can save this operation somewhere around at least 52 hours for the season
Just by switching twine.
just by switching twine, reducing that mistie rate, reducing the broken
Yeah,
bales, not loading that twine boxes off.
nice.
So they can spend that time with a family or maybe take a fishing trip with their buddies, maybe get another baling contract.
Yeah.
So it frees up a little bit more time on the farm or for a contractor that's baling during the season.
I like your fishing option. You still owe me a fishing trip
Yeah, I
anyway.
keep telling you we're going to go fishing, but we never
It
do.
never happens. I'm gonna have to, pull that card on this, and you're gonna have to take me fishing at some point. Uh,
Exactly.
well, it was quite the eye opener. That calculator is a great tool, and it's nice to see all the benefits that you can get just by switching to the Bridon IMPAX technology. We have one more poll for our listeners. Uh, Jamie, if you don't mind bringing the poll up. And it's just we just want to know how you feel about what you've seen in this calculator in this presentation so far.
Yeah, so the options are up. If everybody can just give us your opinion of what you see here. So I'd like to learn more about Bridon USA's products. I need assistance finding a local dealer. I'm interested in doing a field demo with Bridon IMPAX Twine, and I'll be using the cost bale calculator. Okay. All right, give it 2 more seconds. All right, so we have 22% said I'd like to learn more about Bridon USA's products. We have 22% saying I'm interested in a field demo, and 56% said that they would be using a cost calculator.
Yeah, I like the 56%. It's a great tool, and it's like I said, it's quite the eye opener. So thank you for answering the poll, guys. We're gonna open the floor for questions now. So if you have any questions, please just type them in the top right part of your screen, and we'll be answering them if you have any.
So one of the questions was, where can they access this cost per bale calculator?
Well, you can reach out to your local dealer. And they may or may not have one, but if they don't have one, they can reach out to their territory manager, and they will be more than happy to share it with you. You also can reach directly the territory manager in your area, and they can go meet you, or they can email you the calculator for you to use.
Yeah, by the way, the first QR code that you can see on your screen with Bridon USA, that should take you to our contact page
Mhm.
where you can contact your local territory manager with Bridon USA. They'll put you in contact with us, and if you guys would like to go through it together, we'd be happy to do that with you as well.
I think you did a good job.
Really?
Not a lot of questions.
Not a lot of questions. I think we did a good job, actually.
I was just here for the good looks.
Yeah, well, you're helping me out on that, I think.
All right, I
Well,
don't see any
is there any
questions.
more question, Jamie?
No, nothing yet.
No? Okay. Well, if
Nothing
you
yet.
ever think about more questions, you can reach out to us, through the Bridon USA website. We do have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel. You can scan the QR codes that you see on your screens now, and it will take you there. So we're fairly easy to reach, and we're willing to travel. So we're here to help. That's why we call it Bridon Support. So.
Exactly.
Well, Matt, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy guy, so I really appreciate it.
You bet.
And
Thanks for having
hopefully,
me.
yeah, no, it was great talking to you and learning a little bit more. So For everybody watching, we appreciate you stopping by and joining us for our conversation. Please stay tuned for the next Bridon Farminar. If you don't want to miss it, you can scan those QR codes that you see on your screen and join our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, or again, our Bridon USA website. Thanks for your time. We really appreciate it. Again, thank you, Matt.
You bet. Thanks,
That
Lance.
was great.
Thanks for having
Have
me.
a good day, everyone.
Thank you.